This is my first time playing Enter the Gungeon, and I had to say, I'm really excited. If you're unaware of the game, let me explain what it is. According to the wiki, Enter the Gungeon is a bullet-hell dungeon crawler following a band of misfits seeking to shoot, loot, dodge roll, and more. To sum it up, it's a roguelike with lots of bullets and lots of guns. Now that we have the intro out of the way, let's get started. When you first begin, you choose between 4 characters: the convict, the pilot, the marine, and the hunter. I chose the marine because he looked badass, and he starts with an ammo supply kit, extra armor, and a cool starting pistol. After actually beginning the game, I walked around the starting area and met this depressing blue fish man who spoke gibberish about changing the past. Personally, I'm just here to shoot things, so I ignored him and entered the tutorial room. Once inside, I was met with a ghost named Sir Manuel, who became my mentor. He taught me all the skills I would need to survive. I was able to press E on desks to kick them over and use them as cover. And like in Dark Souls, you get a roll that provides invincibility to attacks. Lastly, you also get the ability to make all bullets disappear by using a blank. These mechanics are crucial to surviving the game, as sometimes there will be so many bullets that you won't be able to maneuver around them without these abilities. After testing out my skills by jumping over canyons and gunfire, I was tasked with killing some of the inhabitants of the Gungeon, living bullet people with guns. I felt sad dispatching them at first because I found them cute and pitiful, but I quickly got over my reservations and moved on. For my last task of the tutorial, Sir Manuel himself became my opponent to see if I truly belonged in the Gungeon. After I beat him, I was allowed access to the lower floors. Once I entered the actual Gungeon, I came face to face with a whole new cast of enemies, living bombs, grenades, and more. At first, I felt overwhelmed. However, the Gungeon decided to go ahead and give me some help. After some fighting, I found a chest and got a great upgrade for my starter pistol, a Winchester rifle. The Winchester had a massive boost in damage and a much longer range. Not only that, I was able to use it alongside a power-up item that I found that allowed me to shoot 2 bullets at once. And please ignore the fact that the power-up happens to be alcohol, because everyone thinks I've been sober for 2 years now. Shifting back our focus to the game, after completing the floor, I made it to the first boss. It ended up being a big bird named the Gatling Gull that just so happened to have a minigun. And when I say big, I mean it. He flexed so hard that his feathers popped off, which showed his detailed muscles. The Gull put up a hell of a fight and even managed to hit me as I dodged his missiles and rapid fire. In retaliation, I managed to kill him and looted its wares. And within his treasure box, I found a trick gun that upon reloading can change from a pistol to a shotgun and vice versa. And with my new weapon, I got onto the elevator and dove even deeper into the dungeon. The second level was much harder than the last. I quickly learned that the trick gun was somewhat gimmicky. Oftentimes, when I wanted to use the pistol, I had the shotgun out, and when I wanted the shotgun, I had the pistol. This led to me using the Winchester most of the time, especially when a bunch of snipers appeared and I needed to kill them from far away. While exploring, I found a woman and her robot friend locked in a cell, but I had no key to free them. So with no way to help, I left the prisoners to rot and went to fight the second boss. Unlike the bird, this one was difficult. It was a giant snake named the Anaconda. It had lots of health that kept regenerating when I had to reload. And to make matters worse, I ran out of ammo for my Winchester and had to use my trick gun, which I wasn't the fondest of. I almost lost the fight as its snaking bullets were hard for me to predict, but I pulled through with half a heart. After I won, I was given a pretty strong balloon gun and a large golden key that I knew where to use. I made my way back to the prison cell and freed the prisoners. Coincidentally, they turned out to be shopkeepers, and after releasing them, they invited me to visit their shop once my run was over. We then finished our conversation, and I delved even deeper into the abyss. Unsurprisingly, the third floor was much harder. There were huge gaps, and if you fell into them, you would lose health. This added more stress to the already chaotic energy of the game, and I loved it. It was difficult and full of surprises, but that's what made it more enjoyable. I did my best to get through the floor, but with limited ammo and experience, I soon perished and ended up being sent back to the beginning of the gungeon. For my second attempt, I changed my character to the pilot. Unlike the Marine, he had a lockpick that had a chance to open chests when no keys were available. However, if the lockpick failed, the chest would stay shut forever, which led to some irritating moments. The pilot also started with a strange laser pistol, which felt a bit weaker than the Marine's starting weapon, but I was okay with that. And before re-entering the gungeon, I checked out the store the prisoners mentioned. Inside, I could buy different guns that would then show up in the gungeon. And since I had so much cash, I bought out their entire stock. And after finishing my preparations, I made my way back into the gungeon for a second attempt. Unlike last time, some creatures weren't directly bullet related. Some enemies were red slime-like animals, and others were large sets of armor with swords and flails. And after some time, I made it back to the first boss, and without getting hit a single time, easily dispatched him. As a reward, I received the splitter gun, which, one shot, would launch 2 bullets that would converge at one point. It was a strange gun to use, but it could be helpful. And after I finished my test with it, I continued my quest to the next floor. The second level wasn't much harder than the first, so I went through it pretty casually. I killed some enemies, got some loot, and went on with my day. I scrounged my way through some chests and found a Thompson gun with a high DPS, which made me feel invincible. However, I was surprised to find that this floor had a mini-boss. This boss was a giant bomb that was able to fly and bounce around walls, which made it difficult to land hits against it. Overall, it put up a pretty good fight, but like usual, it was no match for me. Upon his death, I pilfered his inventory and found a blunderbuss. This gun acted as a shotgun that could build up power before you released it all over your enemies. With my confidence growing ever more, I made my way to the actual boss. And unlike last time when I fought a giant snake, this time I fought a snake woman, a Gorgon. She left behind trails of green nasty stuff that I didn't want to touch, and she would turn my character into stone, which prevented me from shooting her. With these new mechanics introduced, I did my best to stay out of her reach, out of her sludge, and out of her sight to take her down and continue my journey. As expected, the third floor was much harder than the first and second. I had to weave through bullets, dodge pitfalls, and deal with even stronger enemies. Some of my guns started losing ammo, and I struggled to get through. However, with a little luck and a lot of determination, I kept pushing forward, even when things looked grim. I eventually found a room with a minecart puzzle, but I kept messing it up and lost most of my health, so I gave up on it. And after some more killing and looting, I managed to make it to the third floor boss. I was greeted by a giant cannonball whose attacks were a mix of smoky stealth and high amounts of gunfire. Throughout the fight, I lost more and more ammo, and all I was left with was my blunderbuss. I did my absolute best to dodge the bullets while the boss rolled his body at me. And with half a heart and a dream, I barely managed to take out the cannonball and proceeded to the fourth floor. I was ecstatic. This was the farthest I had ever gotten. However, when I reached the next floor, I died. Pretty much instantly. This concludes my first video on Enter the Gungeon. If you stayed long enough to hear this, I want to give a big thanks, and I hope you like and subscribe so you can see more. That's all I have to say, so I hope you have a great day. Goodbye.